Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are here with third-time return guest Kevin Donlin from ClientCloningSystems.com. He was here at marketeroftheday.com/289 and marketeroftheday.com/500. And Kevin Donlin is a copywriter, a marketing advisor. He's an author of 3 books. He has been delivering sales gains of over $1 million to entrepreneurs online and offline since 1998. Kevin, glad to be talking to you again.
Hey, Robert, it's great to be back again. I didn't know it was my third time. I know I was here once before, but this is terrific. It's always good to chat with you. I look forward to talking again today.
I look forward to it too. I think you've been here and you've talked about the note card concept and the scoreboard, and you've had some very doable pieces of advice, and you kind of laid out your lifestyle in the past and said that some days you wake up and you have an idea for some client and you write a letter and drop it in the mail, and some days that is just a day for you, that you're all about doing small little things but keeping up with it every single day. And it's been a while since I got a letter from you in the mail. You're one of the few podcast guests that actually consistently follows up again and again. Sometimes I get the bright yellow envelope in the mail, the bright red envelope. What happened with that? Was it just that you didn't convert me, or did you switch to something else?
Well, I had my assistant go through the mailing list, and she sifted and sorted some names out. Yours might have been sorted out, or it could have been that we just cross-pollinated the list wrong, but I'll go back and make sure you start getting stuff again, Robert.
Okay, and it's like, I have not bought anything from you, have not bought any copywriting services, but even seeing what comes in the mail from you is always very encouraging. You send these just one-page, double-sided newsletters with some easy things on there, and it motivates me to get into action and mail some books out to people, or send some more snail mail out. And sometimes I post about you on social media because it's such a cool thing. Some of these sometimes forgotten marketing concepts that maybe everyone stopped doing 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Sometimes it's time to dust off those outdated but still useful techniques. And speaking of that, we are living in the virus era, right? And that is why you're here today. You reached out and you are talking about coronavirus. And I was really hesitant to talk about that because, as you know, we like to keep things evergreen in our marketing in general. We don't like to lock down to a specific time and date. But this is a thing that might last years, and it's a thing that everyone is talking about. So even if people are listening to this in 2029 or 2034, there are still useful things for us all to be keeping in mind if whatever recession might hit in the future, right? It seems like every 10 years we go through some kind of a shakeup. So we are talking about COVID-19, coronavirus, some scary stuff. Before even jumping into things, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on what's happening with our businesses and some of us solopreneurs, and just, I mean, what the heck is going on in your opinion?
Well, I want to reframe what you just said because you hit on something important. Yes, this is very topical right now. We're in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, and the hat I'm wearing is because my haircut expired about 3 weeks ago, and I just look like I walked in from 1974. It's horrible. So I'm wearing a hat with these videos, but we're all adapting, right? I'm wearing a hat. Normally, I'm a little more professional looking than this. The idea that yes, this is a very time sensitive thing going on right now, but you said it before, every 10 years or so something happens that could put you out of business. Brian Tracy, who coached me for 2 years and quadrupled my income, he said that every 90 days something's going to happen that may put you out of business if you don't handle it correctly. And that's one way to look at this. This is, the worst thing that's happened in maybe 900 days or 9,000 days, but it's about every 10 years something happens. There was the Great Recession of 08, 09. There was 9/11 in 2001, and it goes on. There was the farm recession. People don't remember that, 1986 or so. The Midwest was just cratered by farmers going out of business. It's about every 10 years something is going to happen. So the nice thing about this is, if there is a nice thing, is that this is about the worst thing we've been through since the Great Depression. And there's still money out there. Money just didn't evaporate overnight. There's money out there enough to pay for whatever you're selling. You've just got to reposition what you're doing. I'm going to give 5 ways actually to survive and thrive through coronavirus. That's what I'm going to be talking about today. But you can get through this. You've just got to adapt. It was Darwin, who said, the secret to survival, it's not the strongest, it's not the smartest, it's the most adaptable species. They're the ones that survive. And so you've got to be adaptable. And I'm going to be sharing some ideas today that'll help you adapt today. And then in 2034, when there's germs from Mars that make everybody sick, or something's going on, artificial intelligence starts running amok, whatever goes wrong in 20 and 30 years, these ideas ought to work then, because the same principles have worked since there has been business. These are just timeless principles. They're just updated for 2020 right now.
Well, great. So when things get tough, it's not about the resources; it's about the resourcefulness, right? Working with what we have and being smarter and using this time wisely, so that way maybe if things are down or on the way down, then we can build a business, and then when things are on the way up, then we can enjoy the fruits of our labor. So I'm excited to jump into these 5 things. And so for people who are listening to this, which is everyone who's on this call, is what is your background in marketing, and why should we be listening to you as opposed to someone who's walking past us on the street?
Well, so I've been involved in marketing in one way or another since 1995, actually 1994. That's when I may have sold the first ebook online. It was a text file, and I sold it on a part of the internet called Usenet. There was no World Wide Web. We called it the World Wide Web in 1995 when it started up. But I've been selling online since 1994, and you had to write a check for $10 and mail it to me, write your email address on the memo line of the check, and I would email you the report. I didn't call it an ebook, but I found a way to make money online in 1994. Granted, it was just beer money, but hey, I was selling stuff, and I wasn't getting flamed, which is what we called it back then, for posting commercial messages. The internet was pretty hostile to selling back in 1994, but I found a way to do it. And then I ended up working for FedEx.com as their content webmaster. And I was also answering customer service emails and doing online service for them for about 3 years, from 1995 to 1998. And when I first started, FedEx had 6 web pages, the whole website. And it was one of the leading websites on earth. There were so few websites back in 1995 that they published an internet yellow pages. It was a book, and you could look up a website like you could look up a phone number. Back when people had yellow pages, I'm probably already not making sense to some people who have never seen a yellow pages. So it was a printed directory, because the internet was growing so slowly. You could print a directory of all the known websites, and I had a couple years worth of them in my closet before they stopped selling those things. So I've been around, and I started branching into offline marketing about 15 years ago with direct mail and print ads and so forth. So I've been working online and offline for over 20 years now. I've seen a couple of really nasty business shocks, 9/11 and the Great Recession. And as I said earlier, and my clients too, by the way, that I have some of the smartest and most successful people on earth are among my clients. And just talking to them in the past few weeks, they're reinforcing the idea that money didn't disappear. It's out there. You have to dig a little bit. It's still moving around. People still have needs. You just have to adapt to them and find new customers and clients in some cases, but definitely keep the ones you have. I'll be talking about that in detail, and then adapt your products and services to what's going on right now. So it's challenging right now, but I've been through some challenges, and so has anybody who's been in business for more than a couple of years, and we can get through this too.
Well, fantastic. Well, I keep hearing that word adapt, and the thing that has been in the back of my mind as this virus is happening is that it is forcing a lot of businesses to figure out the online ordering thing, the curbside, the delivery, just some minor things that have been coming, but they've all been resisting some of this online stuff, chat bots, all kinds of things like that. And now it's time. Now people are being pushed into doing these things because the alternative is being out of business. And from you recapping all that, what comes to mind is that there's always another side of the coin, right? Like you mentioned about the internet phone book. I remember I was a kid, I went to a Walden's Books. Remember that place?
Walden's,
and there was a book like that, and I remember flipping through and finding that they said Bill Gates's email address was billg@microsoft.com, and I was a kid, so I couldn't buy the book, but I went home and went and typed some email to billg@microsoft.com. But now things have changed, right? And it's always like whenever there's a new tool, there's a faster way of doing things. People don't have to mail us a check or write their email address on the memo line. Now they can click a button and order, but so can everyone else, right? So can the competition. Now
Mhm.
we can Zoom and video chat and do all these things, but there's always like an upside and a downside, right? And so with coronavirus, there's the downside of maybe some businesses are going under, but other businesses now are being forced to do more of this online stuff or adopt what they need to be doing. So coronavirus is not all bad, right? It's pushing us towards innovation in the future. And I'm excited to hear about these 5 things that businesses can do to protect themselves and grow and thrive during coronavirus. So let's just jump into it. What do you have for us as far as these 5 things?
So the first one is to retain the clients and customers you have now. For shorthand, I'm just going to say clients, but keep the clients you have now, because it's getting more challenging to meet and talk to prospects and win their trust and win new sales from new people. It's just a fact. It's not impossible, but it's much harder. So do whatever you can to keep the clients you have right now. And I'm going to give examples for each of these principles. One of my examples, and you're not getting the letter for some reason, but I always find out who should be getting it and who shouldn't be getting it. You should be, is to send out a monthly printed newsletter. And when I say newsletter, in my case, it's a letter with news. It's 2 sides of 1 sheet of paper. And for me, that's been one of my best retention strategies. I've been sending out a monthly newsletter for years now. And most people, when I say mail, they default in their head to email. And I say, no, mail with a stamp on paper. It's got to be printed and tangible. That's just a very easy thing to do. And when you get into your client's hands with something tangible like this, they're reading it offline and they're not distracted and clicking on something, and you have their attention. So there's a slew of benefits to being on paper, showing up once a month in your clients' mailboxes with a newsletter. That's one thing. Another quick one would be to just take stock of who your best buyers are, your best clients, and give them something. A gift would be nice right about now, because everyone is in a pissy mood. And what I did a couple of weeks ago, I had my assistant help me find these. We sent out metal fortune cookies to our clients. And at the end, I'm going to let people give you folks an address where you can download a PDF of what we're talking about. You can see the picture of the thing. But we sent out metal fortune cookies to my clients, and inside was a customized message. It said, Robert, everything is difficult before it's easy. Hang in there. Kevin Donlin. It was just a short little message with everyone's name personalized. And I got more feedback on that than a box of steaks that I sent out for Christmas. You know, it's just funny what people glom onto and think is really valuable to them. So they really appreciated that. And none of my clients has left me. By the way, I have several on retainer fees every month for no small amount of money. And the clients I brought on too, just as this thing was going south, they've all been with me as well. So that's just a couple of ideas, is to just be relevant and in their mailbox every month with something like a printed newsletter, and then just gift them something personalized to show them how much you care. That's the first way to get through this, is to just retain the clients you have.
Well, fantastic. And I know that you're Mr. Time Management, and I imagine that you might be stressed about us fitting our interview into
It's
a window.
okay.
But don't worry, or don't worry about fitting it all. If it takes a few extra minutes, and we have to go 30, 40 minutes to cover all 5, it's totally okay. So retain clients and give them something easy, so that way that you can stay
Mhm.
on the radar. All right. And moving along, what is number 2?
Number 2 is be relevant, and this ought to be easier than it is for some people, but I still see a lot of businesses are their promotions are just they could have been written 6 years ago, 6 months ago. It doesn't speak to what's going on right now. And I'm not saying that everything has to be a coronavirus special or an emergency program, but you just have to realize, there's a very old adage by a copywriter named I'm blanking on his name. Holy cow! It's the middle of the afternoon. I haven't had my nap. It was Robert Collier. In 1937, he wrote that you need to take advantage. You need to enter the conversation that's already going on in the mind of your buyer, because everyone's monologuing all day. We're just talking to ourselves, and the conversation in the minds of all our buyers right now is coronavirus, COVID-19, whatever you want, pandemic, lockdown. It's all bad news, but the advantage is what people are thinking. They're thinking about these things. So you just need to acknowledge them. And the one thing, an example that I'm doing for one of my clients, they have a very premium priced athletic training program. People fly from around the world to visit their location. And right now travel is kind of restricted. So now we're focusing on, regional people who can drive in actually. And more to the point, we're telling them, and the messages are dated. We're putting PSs in our news, in our emails. The governor of Texas has said, yes, some parks can open and you can have groups of 10 or fewer. So we're still going to be having our boot camp in May and the one in June. You're welcome to come. But if you have any questions or reservations, please give us a call. We're just acknowledging the fact that people are worried about traveling right now. And if we weren't putting those PSs in the emails and acknowledging that fact, the sales would be way down. But our sales are pretty steady right now. And we've opened some new doors as well, which I'll talk about in a minute when I talk about one of the third things to do. But just you've got to be relevant right now. And so take your message. How can you tie it to the conversation that's going on in the minds of your customers and clients right now? And that's how you can easily be relevant and more effective.
Super cool. Be relevant. Acknowledge what they are already, as you said, inner monologuing. And I've seen this done where some local restaurants say something like, "If you place a takeout order, we'll give you a free roll of toilet paper." Fun
Yeah.
things like that. And I prefer that to some software app I bought 6 years ago saying, "Here's what we're doing as far as our terms of service during COVID-19." It's like, I don't care about that, but as you
Right.
said, like there are ways to use COVID-19 as a starting point since
Mm-hmm.
people are thinking about that, and maybe flesh out a few ideas and figure out, well, how can I make this timely, relevant, tap into what they're talking about, but also don't be an echo, me too,
No.
every other person saying COVID-19. Like, you're saying something that's timely and right now, but it's not exactly a carbon copy of everyone else.
It's easy to do. I mean, real quick, another example. A friend of mine owns a dry carpet cleaning location in Maryland. He had a free toilet paper promotion, so that's not new. But in honor of COVID-19, he had a 19% discount, and it was a big win for him. It was just an email-only promotion, but it was a big win for him. So free toilet paper with your order and 19% off. And he was making light of the fact that there's this awful thing going on, but hey, it worked for him. So that was a really good and easy way for him to be relevant and effective.
Right. And yeah, 19% off due to COVID-19. All right. So we said so far, number one, retain clients. Number two, be relevant. What's number three?
Number three is be available. Again, you may be hearing this, you may think it's a good idea, but are you doing it? So I myself am available 7 days a week now for clients and my current clients. If it's a prospect or someone with a question who's not a client, I'll still get to them Monday through Friday. But for my clients, they have got permission to text me and call me 7 days a week because things are happening fast, and I'm happy to be available during extended hours for the people who matter most, which are my current clients. So an example of how to make this work in your business, there was a Facebook post, which you can see in the PDF if you care to download it after we're done here. And it was a woman with a terrible toothache, and she was just posting on Facebook in frustration, are all the dentists closed? I'm trying to call someplace and get my toothache fixed. It's killing me. And she wasn't having any luck. Well, the problem was that dentists, too many of them were, their answering machine says we're closed due to COVID-19 and we're not sure when we're going to open. Leave a message, we'll get back to you. But if you kept listening to some of these messages, apparently they were saying, but we will happily, talk to you if you have an emergency. But they were burying it halfway through the voicemail greeting, so people weren't getting to that part. As soon as it said we're closed, they were hanging up and calling somebody else. So not only should you physically be available, but review your messaging and make sure that it's available and it's clear to people that you are available, is what I'm saying. So at the very beginning of your message, if you have an emergency, here's what to do. Please call Dr. Smith at this number and we'll get right back to you. Otherwise, if it's not an emergency, here's what's going on in our office. So that it just change the order of your message so that the most important information is available first for the people who need it. And there was one dentist who's a member of a coaching program one of my clients puts on. I believe he did 15 emergency procedures in 2 days because he was available and they actually had someone answering the phones live even though the office was closed. So that was just a very smart strategy. Answer the phones live. How hard is that to do? Not hard at all, but people tend to hide behind technology in good times. And right now in bad times, you really got to be more available than that. And don't hide behind technology. If you can just answer your phones, you can get the clients and the purchases that other people won't get. So be available. That's idea number three.
And that's fantastic because again, it's like we've said a few times here now. Every decade, something crazy happens, and usually it's like a double disaster. Like even 9/11 happened a year or two after the dot-com bubble burst. So it's always like we always think it's some brand new thing, and there's this and there's that at the same time, but there's always the double disaster.
Yeah.
But even back when there was the Great Recession, a lot of people had that, business owners especially had that tendency to follow the pack, right? They said, everything's going on a downturn, let's just follow it. And at the time, I remember thinking, well, if people are losing their jobs, maybe they're looking into starting their own business. Maybe finally they're getting the kick in the pants that they need. And likewise, right now, if people are having to work from home, maybe that means it is time for them to adopt the new technology, or maybe answer the phones, have these extended hours like you're saying. They're still 24 hours in a day. They might be at home, but nowadays with cloud phone systems, it can all be routed in there. And you made me think of, there is a dentist in my town. I'll have to, after this call, send you a screenshot, but he posted a photo of himself wearing a mask outside his dentist's office, and he said, we're still open, but we'll only take one person at a time, and we'll prioritize the emergency procedures, things like that. But that's a huge uncertainty right now, right? Who's open, who's doing what is safe to do. And as you said there about reordering the messaging in the answering machine, I thought that is spoken like a true copywriter, right? Because you don't just if, say someone goes to your website, you don't start with your company name or your website name. You start with an attention-getting headline, right? And you deliver some benefits. You say, here's what you want, and then maybe later on, then you introduce your website, your offer, your product, things like that. And I think that is a timeless, evergreen marketing concept right there for us all to think about. Is think about the order of importance. If someone calls with an urgent issue, it's all about me. Deal with that first, and then get to the less important things. Right now, the urgent thing is, are you open during coronavirus, or what's the deal with me going in? Is it safe? Deal with the urgent matter first, and then deal with the less important things. Don't fall into that trap of least to most important.
Yeah, now there's a caveat there, which you set something off in my head. You got to be careful about urgency versus importance. So a lot right now, everything is urgent, right? This, that, and the other thing. We're all crazed. So remember that there are a lot of things that are urgent, but not everything is important. So it's important to change your voicemail greeting if it's necessary. But is it urgent? Well, you can let it go for a few days, fine, but you're going to lose sales. So it's important to do certain things, but it's not necessarily urgent. But the other side of that coin is there's a lot of urgent things that are unimportant. Most email, coronavirus or not, most email is not important. It just isn't. So you should certainly check it first thing in the morning and maybe midday and maybe a few more times often than you used to. But when you're diving into email and you think you're being productive, 9 times out of 10 you're not. It's just doing something that's urgent but not important. So never lose sight of the fact that there's a big difference between what's urgent and what's important. The same difference between what's effective versus what's efficient. You can be efficient to knock out 10 emails in 15 minutes, but was that effective? So never lose sight. That principle is just timeless, and good times are bad. So that's a bonus tip I'm throwing out. I guess it's not in any PDF,
Nice.
but I say it all
Number
the time.
3.5.
We'll call it, 3.5. And I have another one, but we're going to run out of time. So I think we can dive into number 4 here, I think.
Well, running out of time is good because that leaves them wanting more. That will lead them to go and
Sure.
take that call to action, go to your website. And also, as we're following along, is there an easy way to plug that PDF document maybe halfway through here? And we'll circle back around and plug it again, just that way we can read it while listening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the place to go is my website, clientcloningsystems.com, www.clientcloningsystems.com, and just click on the link that says free playbook. I'm calling it the 7 ways to protect your business during coronavirus and thrive when it's over. It's an actual playbook. It's got these 7 actions. I only have time for 5 today, but 7 actions and 5 ways to apply each action. You come up with 35 different plays that you can run to improve your business now and set yourself up for success when coronavirus is done. And that's available at my website. It's very easy to find.
Super cool. And that way people can have the visual learning plus the auditory. They can see it while we are discussing it. We said, number 1, retain clients. Number 2, be relevant. Number 3, be available. What is number 4?
So number 4 is offer more value than you ever have before. And now this is, again, another idea that sounds good, and you may think this is not new, but are you doing it? Take a hard look at your products and services and just ask yourself, what can I do to make this more valuable? How can I add value? And this is the opposite, by the way. A lot of people are cutting their prices right now as a way to survive. That's not going to help you. And you're just training people to pay less when the crisis is over. So instead of cutting your prices, add more value. How can you add more value? I'll give you the easiest way in the world is to offer payment plans. If you're selling anything over $100, consider a payment plan. Instead of $200, you can say 2 installments of $99.50, right? And it's the same price essentially, 30 days apart. If your shopping cart software can process it, and almost everyone can, that's going to increase your sales. It's certainly going to make it easier to not lose sales because everyone's conscious of their budget. And whether or not you add on a financing charge is your call. I never do. But I see it all the time. There's a very, very successful coach. He's selling something for $750 or 2 installments of $475, which works out to $950. Excuse me, it's $375. So it's $100 finance charge, but you can pay it in 2 installments. I myself almost never added a finance charge, but simply offering payment plans to people is going to increase your sales. It never fails to increase sales in good times and bad. So that's an easy way to add value. Instead of cutting your prices, split your prices in 2 or 3.
Yeah, and you're reminding me of a few years ago. I read a book called, I think it was like the 21 Immutable Laws of Marketing. You heard of that one?
Jack Trout and Al Reese, I believe. It's like 30
And,
years old.
and what stuck with that was that they said discounting is like a drug, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can discount one time and you get a nice boost, you get a nice hit, but if you keep doing
Right.
it, then next thing you know, your business keeps having to work harder just to get the same result.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to do that. It's good short term, bad long term, and
Mm-hmm.
so very easy, very doable. Instead of discounting, add value. That way, you don't get hooked on that
No,
discount drug.
avoid that. And then, let me throw another one at you. Again, this is an easy one to do. Is simply add more uh, information, add more training to whatever you're selling. And it can be as simple as a quick start guide or a what to do now guide. And I'm saying guide, it could be 2 pieces of paper, 1 piece of paper, a checklist. What can you add to your product or service to help the buyers use it more effectively? And chances are you already know this because you're getting questions from people now. They're saying, you may call it an FAQ now, you may call it a fact now, but that is a low perceived value. Frequently asked questions, we're sick of those. But if you call it a quick start user guide with a little bit of an introduction, it's the same information, but it's repositioned as quick start, meaning I can get results faster. So take your FAQs or your facts, turn it into a printed guide and mail it to your buyers. So either include it in the box with whatever they're buying or send it separately. And that gives you an excuse to reach out to a buyer by mail after the purchase. And guess what you can include with your quick start guide? A bounce back offer for your next product or service. So, these things can all tie together, and they should dovetail with communications that set up the second, third, and fourth sale, which is where the real profits are, by the way. So just create some sort of information, help people use your product or service more effectively, and that's another way to add value. Very easy to do.
Nice. So simple, quick, easy, fast. Does
Mm-hmm.
not need to mean discounted. You add that simple extra bonus, and maybe that is how these customers, these clients we have best learn, right? If we have our 2 hour long video, they're not sitting through that. But if you have the 4 page document that maybe doesn't give 100% of what the video has,
Mm-hmm.
but still shows the steps, has the checklist, has some screenshots, has those resources, maybe now they will get some results. And all of this here, I feel like people listening or watching are feeling the results they would get from you as Mr. Marketing Multiplier, right? There are a lot of things that people are doing correctly, but maybe they need a few little tweaks or maybe add a few extra add-ons, things like retaining clients, being relevant, being available, and offering more value than they ever have offered before. And now to bring it home, to give us the big, massive finale, what is number 5 of 5, Mr. Kevin Donlin?
The number 5 is completely unexpected, but it's take care of you, because you have to carry your brain around all day. And I can promise you that most of us are frazzled right now. We're one more coffee away from exploding, and we're burning out. And you've got even Winston Churchill during World War II used to go to his country house on occasion. It wasn't every weekend, but he would go away and paint during World War II. So you need to take care of you. I'm a big proponent of physical fitness. As I get older, it gets more important. So in my PDF, I lay out some things. If you do nothing else, then get out of your office and walk for 20 minutes a day. Not only will that freshen you up physically, but it's going to, when you get away from your desk, I can't tell you how often my best ideas come away from my desk, and I'm sure you're the same way. They come in the shower, they come when you're waiting for something in the microwave, but oftentimes they're going to come when you're engaging in some sort of physical activity. We all have our phones with us anyway, so if you get an idea while you're out walking, just dictate it or make a note or send yourself an email, but just get out of your office and at least 20 minutes of exercise a day. I'm a big fan of what's called HIIT, high intensity interval training workouts. They're typically 15, 20, 25 minutes long. You can get a lot done, and you can Google it, and it's in my PDF. But quick little workouts like that, you've got energy for the rest of the day. And the most successful entrepreneurs I know, in good times or in bad, they're also in some of the best physical condition. You don't have to look like a bodybuilder, but you've just got to take care of yourself. Hydration, sleep, those are the two biggies, especially sleep. One thing I've been trying to do, and I've just had a bad couple of days, but for a long time I was sleeping with my phone in the other room, completely turned off. And I can't tell you how many good nights of sleep I've had during this crisis, because I just went back to, we didn't always sleep with our phones. You say it's your alarm clock, but you end up checking the news or the weather at 3 a.m. when you wake up, and then you've got that blue light hitting your eyes, waking you up, and there's really no good thing that comes from sleeping with your phone. It disrupts your sleep 11 ways to Sunday. So all these little things that you think you've heard before, and you may have heard before, my question to you for this idea about taking care of yourself and anything, are you really doing these things? Are you doing these things? Probably not. And so nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect, but if you can just make progress in these 5 areas and the 2 more in the PDF that you can download, you can see some exponential progress in your business, and you can see some real growth. I mean, there's a tremendous opportunity during this downturn right now, because up to half your competition is going to be out of business. It's going to just decimate industry after industry. And if you're able to plug through and get through this, you can just clean up. You can be taking other people's clients, because they're just not going to be there. I'm getting emails, and then I'm going to wrap up in a second. I'm getting emails weekly from desperate entrepreneurs. What do I do? What do I do? And I can just look at these people, and I can just see them working at Walmart in 6 months. I just don't see them succeeding. And so let me throw a bonus idea at you. I hate to
That's
ramble
okay.
here, but I just
Bonus
got this.
on.
It's too new for the PDF, but I was just speaking to a very successful client of mine yesterday. He said the big thing that he did, he started his business during a bad recession in the 80s, and businesses were closing around town. He said Main Street was deserted. It reminded him of a lot of right now. No one was going shopping. No one had any money. They weren't quarantined, but no one had any money. He said the main thing he did was he'd never assumed that everyone was broke. He never, and Harvey Mackay has said this a couple of times. Harvey Mackay, the sales guy, used to say, never say no for the other guy. Never say no for the other guy. And what my client was saying was similar. Never assume that the other guy is broke. Never assume that your clients or customers don't have money, because there is money out there. And I've said this before a couple of times, that there is money out there. And if you don't assume that they're broke, if you assume that you're talking to someone now, or you will be today, who's got the money, who can afford you, you're going to find those people. But if you assume that everyone's broke and no one's buying, and you're just going to curl up under your desk, you'll be out of business. So as Harvey Mackay would say, don't say no for the other guy. Just upgrade your clients. The money is out there. Look for it. Adapt your products and services accordingly, and you can get through this.
Awesome. I love it. I mean, this has been, as usual, a complete brain dump. This is the kind of episode people will need to listen back to 4 or 5 times just to get, to get 100% of the valuable content, right? Like, they listen to it one time, they get some actionable items to go and do things, go back after implementing, listen again and again. And the thing that I'm hearing from all these pieces of advice, from retaining clients, being relevant, being available, offer more value, and take care of you, is don't fall into the self-sabotage, self-fulfilling prophecy trap, right? Like especially that final bullet point there, or that bonus, is assuming that just no one will buy. Well, if you assume that, then you're guaranteed to get the outcome of your business going under, of not landing your sale, of not getting that, having that purchase made. Why guarantee that outcome? Why not go for what could happen? Why not be positive, be optimistic? Because if you're just being Mr. Downer, being Mr. Pessimist, then who is that serving? That is serving no one. But that is a very good piece of advice, because even before we started recording, you asked me about the beautiful weather outside. You talked about your beautiful weather outside. There are still positive things, and there's always that self-care aspect of don't forget to exercise and hydrate and move your body around. Just because there is some doom and gloom, which, I mean, there always will be some doom and gloom somewhere out in the world, even if it's not recession time. Why let that tiny speck get to you when you can focus on you, when you can do the best you can, when you can use this time smartly and strategically to make your business the best that it can be? And like we said at the beginning, some people are maybe their existing business will go under, maybe some competitors' business will go under, and you can buy it at a discount. Maybe some people will be knocked out of their career path, and it's time to become that entrepreneur. The guarantee here is that things will change, but I think it's up to us to decide if it will be a bad change or if it will be start as a bad change that we can then turn into something good.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, I liken this to a divorce, or recovering from cancer or a bankruptcy. You're going to be considering options you never would have otherwise. It's just very painful, and in some cases, lots of good can come from those bad experiences. And I think this is just another bad experience, and you have a choice. You don't want something good to come from it, you can do that. If you want to curl up in a ball under your desk and be working at a casino as a greeter, or whatever, you can do that too. And you can go out of business, or you can just pull the positives from this and make the difficult decisions, the difficult adaptations you would not have otherwise done. And that's the opportunity that I see.
Well, okay, well, it is Charles Darwin time. Do you want to be the Neanderthal and die, or do you want to be the Homo sapien and invent the wheel and invent fire and survive? Well, this is the time when change will happen. Everyone can and should go to clientcloningsystems.com and click on that link to devour, not just download, not just read, but eviscerate, claw to pieces this free playbook, so that way we know what we can and should be doing for our own business or for the clients we will be landing. Get that free playbook and check out those 7 tips, because we covered 5, plus there was a 3.5, plus there was a 5 plus in there. But so you get that, plus you get this. I mean, man, what a package.
8.5. I think that's the metric equivalent, 8.5 instead of 7.
8.5, and then maybe when they read it, they'll get like 1 or 2 of their own ideas that
Sure.
spring forth from that. So many cool things. So clientcloningsystems.com. And if people like what they see in the PDF, if they want to take that next step, what is the next step? Is it to call you, fill out a contact form? How do they then deepen this relationship with you after devouring the PDF? After
you download the PDF, actually, there's a thank you page, and you have 2 options. You can download and read the PDF right there, and you can also click on my. There's a link to apply for a phone call with me, a 20-minute problem-solving session. So I thought ahead, and that is also available. If you like these ideas and you want to discuss your business, no cost, no obligation. I just like to exchange ideas with folks. There's an application you can complete, and if you qualify, if it seems like it's a good fit, I'll send you my schedule link, and you and I can talk for 20 minutes by phone, and it'll be a very personal version of what you're seeing right now.
Well, fantastic. Well, it is always a pleasure. My mind always just like burns up like a bonfire every time that we have a conversation. You give me all these cool reminders. Like since we last talked, I wrote a book just by going out on walks and taking my phone and typing a few sentences here and there on Google Documents. You take a few walks, a few weeks. Next thing you know, you have that book or that sales letter or that offer or that email. You have it figured out. And so it is time for all of us to maybe not overload ourselves or not stress out or not lose any sleep, but use this time to reflect and pivot and reposition and make our business and make our future what it can and should be. The place to go is clientcloningsystems.com. And thanks so much, Mr. Kevin, for stopping by. I'm sure we'll catch up after this virus is all over in a couple of years. Maybe we'll be at show 1000 or so, and we'll get some more some more really cool, simple, but often ignored, but also doable, but also powerful ideas. And I always appreciate you stopping by and just impressing us very much with your wisdom here.
Thank you so much, Robert. It was great to chat with you again. Look forward to doing it again soon.